This is the Greg Bedard Patriots Podcast with Nick Cattles.
We're going to get you ready for the Titans matchup this weekend. Lots to talk about, including the latest on Drake Maye. But first, download the Prize Picks app today. Use code CLNS. Get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CLNS on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You can also take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Before we get to football, Greg, you want to talk some baseball, as last night the Yankees lost the Dodgers. They lose the World Series in 5 games. And Greg, I'll tell you, what a complete implosion by the Yankees during that game last night after going up 5.
Yeah. I'm sure you were, I'm sure you had an eye on both games because, of course, the Celtics were mounting a monumental comeback against the Pacers and took it to overtime. And I had that on the little TV, so I was monitoring it. But I'm sure, I'm sure you had it swapped. I'm sure you had the Celtics in full view in the World Series in the other. But yeah, what a change in events during that game. And I think people who listen to this know that I love baseball. Baseball is actually my sport. And, played it, coached softball. So, we are a baseball household at the Bedards. My son was at hockey practice, but my daughter was home and she was all into it. She's a big Freddie Freeman fan, so she was going nuts. But, the Yankees were up 5-0 and Garrett Cole was in complete command. He was unhittable. His stuff was filthy. You were like, oh my God, he's going to throw a complete game shutout. The Dodgers are going to have to burn through some arms. And it's going to go back to LA and, who knows? Yeah, I wouldn't rule it out that the Yankees come back, 20 years from when it happened to them. That's what I was thinking at the time. And then all of a sudden, Aaron Judge takes his eye off a routine line drive to center field to peek at the runner at first, misses the ball. It's been a while since I've seen a play like that, especially in a big spot. You had the fielder's choice to shortstop where, I liked the decision to go to third by Volpe, but Kike Hernandez was hustling. He also slid to the outside part of the bag, which was very smart. A lot of base runners, especially at the youth level, they probably would have slid to the inside part of the bag, thinking that there might be a tag, but him sliding to the outside. And also I would say Jazz Chisholm not having a lot of experience at third. Look, Volpe spiked the throw. They don't get it there. And then you have the play at first base where Mookie Betts hits a spinner to first. And what's his name at first base?
Rizzo.
Big dude. Rizzo. Yeah, and Rizzo gets it, and he wants to flip it, and Garrett Cole stopped. He just pointed to first base like, you got it. Mookie's running down the line. He's safe. Dodgers get a couple of, key hits, including Freddie Freeman with the single up the middle. And all of a sudden, it's 5-5, and you're like, holy crap. And Garrett Cole had to throw like 38 pitches that inning, and it completely changed the game around, and it was all self-inflicted by the Yankees. So, of course, me as a Red Sox fan, I was just sitting there giggling to myself and loving all of it. I will say, I haven't heard a whole lot of the discussion today about that play between Rizzo and Cole, but I just got to say, even in the moment, like when Mookie hit it, I was like, oh crap, this is a spinner. He might not even field this ball. I was a first baseman by trade. I've been in that position. Those plays are really, really hard. And basically in that situation, because you don't know what kind of bounce you're going to get at the very end with it spinning like that. It could kick off a rock and go the other way. Basically in that scenario, as a first baseman, you just want to make sure that you knock the ball down, stop the ball, because you don't know. It's like fielding a knuckleball. Basically. And so I wouldn't have been like, if it was me, I definitely would have went down on like one knee and would have been over exaggerating, like, knocking it down almost like a catcher to make sure I kept it in the infield or it kept it from squirting away.
Right.
But, Cole's got to get over there. Like
Yep.
I know he probably thought it was a routine ground ball, but he's got to recognize the spin on that and like, oh crap, I got to get over there just in case. And so, yeah, what a change of events in that game. I definitely thought they were going back to LA and anything was possible. And I just got done watching the Netflix Red Sox documentary. So that was all in my mind. But great theater. I mean, I wanted it to go further because I just wanted to see more of this classic series with, big hitters, superstars on each side. But that was a fun watch last night.
Yeah, I just finished watching the comeback yesterday, right before Game 5. So I had the same kind of feelings of, oh no, they're going to end up doing this. Even when Verdugo was up there to end the game, I'm like, watch, he's going to hit a home run, tie this game. It goes into extra innings, and they're going to end up somehow winning this. But I also played first base when I was younger, so I totally agree with you on the ground ball to Rizzo. It's a tough play. It's much tougher than people might think it is if you've actually played the game and played that position. And Cole has to get over. You can't take anything for granted. I think it's interesting. The Dodgers win this series in 5 games, and I was just doing some quick math. Shohei Ohtani was 2 for 19 in this series. Mookie Betts was 5 for 20. So Ohtani and Betts were combined 7 for 39, and the Yankees still could only muster 1 game. It came down mostly to pitching and Freddie Freeman. Freeman was an absolute freaking beast. He was a nightmare. I was surprised the Yankees kept pitching to him, but it worked on a few occasions, so I can't kill them for that. I would have just walked the dude if I could every single time because he was unbelievably in the zone the first 3 or 4 games of this series. So congratulations to the Dodgers. And yes, I did enjoy watching Verdugo be the final out. And I thought the strikeout was the icing on the cake. Thank you very much. No championship for you Yankees. Go cry in the corner. All right, let's get into some football here. Drake Maye. We start with Drake Maye, Greg. Of course, he was concussed against the Jets last weekend. I am not going to be blamed for that, even though I was there. My friends used to call me the angel of death. But I will say I was at the Rams-Patriots Super Bowl when they won. So no angel of death here. But Maye was concussed. He was not at the media portion of practice yesterday, but he did throw for 30 minutes. That would mean he's in phase 3. There's some confusion about phase 3 versus 4. And really the difference is the 30 minutes, the allotted time. If Maye was out there beyond the 30 minutes, he's in phase 4. The fact that they had to cut it off at 30 minutes, he's in phase 3 as of yesterday. He was in the locker room today. Greg, they're going out on the field in just a minute as we record this, so we'll probably find out if he's out there. But just your thoughts on what we saw yesterday and what we heard from Gerard Mayo regarding Drake Maye.
Yeah, I think, reading the tea leaves and, when it comes to head injuries, I'm not terribly comfortable, giving takes. I mean, I'm all for, whatever the doctors say and whatever the player wants to agree to, they can do, whatever they want. But, reading the tea leaves on what's going on, it sounds like Drake Maye was suiting up to go to practice. That's a good sign. That meant, basically, every sort of step in the protocol that they go through, it's basically like, they test it a little bit, then they check your symptoms the next day to see if they come back or anything like that. And then if they don't, then you can progress. So that Drake Maye was getting ready for practice tells me that 30-minute session, he bounced back fine. He didn't have any issues, no symptoms. And so now he's going forward, and then we'll see, he'll go through a full practice today. I would anticipate him getting about, probably 50% of the load today. Just because you never know. Like Drake could be progressing, and then all of a sudden they get to the final step and he shows symptoms. And so you have to prepare Jacoby Brissett, at least some, just in case, because you don't know. These injuries are totally unpredictable. But I would say from what we see right now, I would guess that Drake Maye is going to start on Sunday. And, I'm sure a lot of people will be happy about that.
Yeah, the one comparison that I would make, and again, this isn't apples to apples because every single concussion is different. Every single reaction to the concussion is different. So I don't want to sit here and tell you it's a guarantee. But when you look at Brock Purdy, I know NBC Sports Boston threw this up there during the week that Purdy was concussed and was able to play the next week. And that's really the only recent example of that at the quarterback position. I looked it up. Purdy was actually concussed on Monday night. That happened on a Monday Night Football game.
Mhm.
And he was in phase 3 by Thursday's practice that week, which would be Wednesday's practice for the Patriots this week. So if you're just going off of timelines and you're looking at that Brock Purdy example, Drake Maye is exactly where Purdy was, given the difference between a Sunday and a Monday night. He's exactly where Purdy was at that point in the week after being concussed. So Purdy was able to play. Doesn't mean Maye's going to play because, again, they're all different. But I do think that timeline tells us at least how Drake Maye feels to this point and the chance that he has of playing. Would you play Drake Maye, Greg, even if he was cleared? Gerard Mayo said yesterday if he's cleared by the independent neuroscientist that he feels like Maye will be able to operate the offense, therefore play. Would you play Drake if he was cleared?
Yeah, I would. I mean, from the standpoint of it's my opinion from, the way things went down, Mayo's interaction with him at halftime, that Maye, after he got concussed, and by the way, Adam Reishens, our photographer over at BSJ, I mean, he's excellent. And he was telling GRD and I, he was like, right after it happens, he's like, looking through his lens because he was all over taking photos of that sequence. He was like, I think he's concussed. He looked out of it, his eyes. And the thing is like there was the end of the quarter break, and then Drake came out, and including he threw a dime to Kayshon Boutte on third down over the middle with a bunch of crap going on. So in terms of concussions and their severity, it looked like this was on the lighter side of that. And so I do think him going through the protocol and everything, I do think it's a safer bet. Like, for example, on the other side of the spectrum, if he was like, knocked out on that play and people had to come out and then they take him in, like, obviously in that circumstance, you probably want to be a little bit more cautious. But this, from all that we've seen and heard, this seems to be sort of a minor concussion. And so I'm fine with him getting, right back out there, because I do think this is a kid. And he only played 11 plays last week, but the early indications are that the more he plays, the more the game slows down for him, the better he is. So, yeah, just keep playing. Now, I do want to say, because I've heard, like, I was just listening to Phil and Tom Curran on his podcast, and, I do think there's a little hyperbole about how much better the offense looks and performs, with Drake Maye, which in many respects is true. But let's also recognize that Jacoby Brissett has led the team to 2 victories. Their 2 victories, had another one if Jalen Polk got his heel down. So, I mean, it's not like Jacoby Brissett's inept and the Patriots have, no chance. I mean, it's an uglier game. It's not a pretty game. But, for the most part, Jacoby Brissett has done what he was brought here to do. And, predictably, it hasn't been pretty to watch, but, got to hand it to the guy. He should have led 2 fourth quarter comebacks in his last 2 games. So I just wanted to get that out there.
Yeah, a few things to unpack. I was uncomfortable watching the game back on Monday, knowing that Maye was concussed, because the NFL needs to figure this out. And I know it's not a flawless process, and it's pretty much impossible to make it a flawless process, but they have one of those independent neurological doctors on the sidelines. And, they're supposed to have one job. Your one job is to pay attention to hits and see if anybody reacts. Now, a lot of times they do a great job, but it's really weird when it's a quarterback. We've seen instances of this, right? Tua was allowed to stay in the game, even though he got up and kind of, stumbled and bumbled and fell back down and got back up. He was allowed to stay in. Josh Allen a few weeks ago clearly was knocked out. His wrist and his hand goes limp, and he stays in the game. And when they finally take him out, he has like 6 minutes of real time or whatever it was, and he's right back in there. I'm watching May, and he gets hit. It's helmet to helmet. It's obvious it's helmet to helmet. You can see that May takes a while to get up. He needs his teammates to help him. He's allowed to take a snap. I think the Jets had a penalty on the very next play, and then they go to a commercial break. And you come back from the commercial, and he's still in the game. And and he plays, I think it was 3 more snaps. And by the way, one of the snaps that he takes, he was sacked. Thankfully, he was not hit in the head during that sack. Thankfully, he doesn't take another tough blow to the helmet. And we might be talking about something much more serious, even though, every concussion is serious, but we could be talking about something even more significant. As you said, Greg, we didn't see a fencing position like we've seen from Tua. We didn't see May get completely knocked out. And that's on the NFL. And I don't know how you allow somebody to take a helmet-to-helmet hit, take a while to get up off the ground, needs help from his teammates, takes a snap, then you have a full commercial break, and he's allowed to go back out there. It seems like they could do a better job at times of recognizing these kinds of things. I agree with you as far as Drake Maye playing. If he's cleared, you play him. He's your starting quarterback. The whole idea is to get him reps, to get him out there, and I think you absolutely play him. We've got a couple more thoughts on Jacoby Brissett. Got a question for Greg about Jacoby. I got a question about the deadline as well. We have to get into this Titans matchup. But first, Greg will tell you about his prize picks this week.
Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You're going to have this week, because of the Drake Maye situation, not a whole lot out there on Prize Picks for the Patriots in this game. I think they're waiting to see how things play out. So you're going to have to check my Twitter account later in the week, probably Friday or Saturday when I get my picks in there. I also, I think I had pick 1 for it was Calvin Ridley, I think, is more or less 49.5 receiving yards. I picked less because I assume it seems like Will Levis is going to start, and that guy throws for like 96 yards a game. Can you imagine if it was Brissett versus Will Levis? That would be awesome. Download the Prize Pick app today and use code CLNS and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CLNS on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game.
Jacoby Brissett, Greg, was he pissed after the Jets game? And if he was pissed, who was he pissed at?
I do think that he was pissed. There was definitely an edge to him after that. I think if I had to guess, well, first of all, I don't think he was happy about the decision to bench him. Considering, I think in his mind, he had played well enough or steered the ship well enough to get the Patriots in position to, they beat the Bengals, had them in position to beat the Seahawks, had them in position to beat the Dolphins, and then the poke play happened, and led them to 2 scoring drives in the fourth quarter against the Jets. So in his mind, I don't think, at the time after the Dolphins game when he got benched, I don't think he was happy about that. He thought I think he thought that he was the scapegoat, and there are players in that locker room, veteran offensive players, who told me that he was made the scapegoat, that somebody was going to have to pay the price. So I think there are some hard feelings about that, but I also think there's a lot of hard feelings in regards to the media or some of the noise that he heard. And I understand it. I mean, and this isn't anything against Zoe, but when you have the team's radio color guy basically like openly campaigning for Drake Maye, not only during the season, but before the season, and was getting weak, stronger week after week. And you have certainly members in the media who, just wanted Drake Maye and, were denigrating Jacoby Brissett. And, look, it's the job of the media to commentate on these things. But I just think that I think that Jacoby heard a lot of that stuff at some point, and I think it's given him a real chip on his shoulder. So yeah, I think he was pissed after that game and been like, this is what I've been doing the whole time. It's just, the offense played a little bit better. The offensive line protected a little bit better. I mean, the pressure rate allowed by the Patriots has gone down every week since Drake Maye became the starter. Now, some of that has to do with Drake, but Jacoby played a lot on Sunday, and I only had it as like a 29% pressure rate. I do think this offensive line has played well. They've righted the ship with, Lowe at left tackle, Jacobs at right tackle, Awenu at right guard, Ben Brown at center, and who's playing left guard? Just
Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan, who's actually gotten worse in recent weeks. But yeah, I think he's just like, look, if the offense was better, if the offensive line was better, I would have been doing this the whole time. But I paid the price for everybody else sucking.
I find it interesting, if anybody out there criticized Jacoby before the season when he met with the media and they asked him something. I'm going to paraphrase here because I can't remember the exact dialogue, but they asked him about preparing for the season. And he said something along the lines that he played some golf, and he was criticized by some people like, oh, he's not taking the job seriously. You're supposed to be the starting quarterback. You're brought in, you're playing golf during the offseason. If you criticize Jacoby for that, then you can't. I don't think you can criticize him for having the red ass on Sunday, because that's what you wanted, right? Like, you wanted the guy to be competitive. You wanted him to be ready to play and wanting to play and angry if he doesn't play. I have absolutely zero issue with Brissett having that red ass, and if that helps him, play better or it motivates him, cool. I mean, players use different things to motivate themselves all the time, so I have no issue. And I also understand if Jacoby's hearing some of the stuff that he was certainly hearing from all sorts of corners of the media. And look, I think a lot of the stuff about his play was justified, frankly. But again, it's his point of view. And if that motivates him, then good. Let it motivate him. And as far as the offensive line, I just want to throw this out there because I want to update this. You and I have had a lot of conversations, and I put out a long tweet the other day about Vedarian Lowe, who, by the way, might not play. We'll see. We'll see if he's at practice today. He said he's going through some things, a shoulder and an ankle. But we've had all the conversations in the first month and a half. Everybody was going crazy about the offensive line, and I get it. And God forbid, I said, let's be patient and see if they can get healthy, and let's see if they grow together. Right. And when you look at Vedarian Lowe, it's pretty funny. We're halfway through the year, and when you're looking at the Pro Football Focus pass protection grade, and I know some people have issues with pass protection, PFF and all that stuff. But if you're using a measurement, if you're using the same measurement for all players, then it's a fair measurement. Whether you agree with the measurement or not, it's still measuring all those players via the same quote unquote science. But Vedarian Lowe, his pass pro grade is 72.6 according to Pro Football Focus. Now, that is higher than second round pick Patrick Paul, second round pick Blake Fisher, second round pick Roger Rosengarten, second round pick Kingsley Suamataia, third round pick ahead of Caden Wallace, Brendan Coleman. That's even higher than Tyron Smith. So, and by the way, Lowe's played 255 snaps. If people want to throw the health at me, the only rookie who's played more snaps out of those names I gave you is Rosengarten. He's playing on the right side for the Ravens offensive line. He's played 361 snaps, so just about 100 more snaps than Lowe has. Tyron Smith has played almost double the snaps as Lowe, so you can have a fight there. The point is, I understand the perception of Vedarian Lowe and the reputation that, he seemingly had walking into this season, but I'm just giving you the numbers. I'm giving you the facts here. He's been pretty damn good in pass protection, and that's even with facing Trey Hendricks in week 1 in Cincinnati after only practicing a day or two. So I think this offensive line, it has not been nearly as terrible as it was the first month or so of the season. And
I
hopefully
also,
it's gonna get better.
Yeah, Nick, I also want to point out that Alex Van Pelt has been much better in the past couple of games about helping out the tackles
Yes.
and, keeping more people in and chipping and then getting guys out. I mean, it's
Yep.
been night and day from early in the season. And that was a big criticism of mine. But, I do want to point out that I think he's done a much better job of spinning the dial in terms of, you know, helping guys and maybe mixing in some more quick games and three-step drops where you don't need to help and you can get guys out quickly. Like, he's done a much better job in the past couple of games, and I think that's been a real factor on how the pressure rate has gone down. And that's something that I criticized him early, where it's like, dude, let's help a lot, and just deal with the other stuff later. But better late than never that he's turned a corner, and I think that's helped, the offense as a whole be, more productive and consistent in the passing game.
I agree. I think Van Pelt has had 2 of his better weeks the last 2 weeks.
Yep.
I was very critical of him, against Jacksonville to a point. But when you look at some of the things, he at least made some improvements. And then, you look at last week, I thought he made some improvements there as well. So I think he has gotten better. I don't think he's great. And by the way, the Vedarian Lowe stuff, I understand it's only halfway through the season. He could fall off a cliff. The other guys could improve. I evaluated it after the first quarter of the season. I evaluate after the half of the season. I'll continue to do that throughout every quarter of the year. And we'll see at the end of the season if Vedarian Lowe was better than those rookie tackles that everybody wanted. I know some will fight back and say, hey, Nick, you're drafting for upside and those guys could be better next year. And I understand that. But a few things. I'm just simply stating that up to this point, Lowe's been better than those guys. I'm not guaranteeing he'll be better for the rest of his career. I'll also say that Lowe is 25 years old. He's pretty young. He still has some upside if he can stay healthy.
Yep.
I'd also say that drafting a tackle in the second round would have cost you draft capital. You would have had to flip the pick of Caden Wallace and Javon Baker. Maybe Javon Baker ends up being nothing. Maybe Wallace ends up being nothing. But if Wallace ends up being, a starting right tackle or at least a swing tackle, and you have Lowe, then that's better off than what you would have done in the draft. And you also look at Jalen Polk. For people who wanted the Patriots maybe to move down and draft a guy or move up. Even Tyler Guyton, by the way, if you're wondering, Tyler Guyton is well behind Vedarian Lowe in pass protection block grade for the Cowboys. And Tyler Guyton told the media that the Patriots try to trade up for him in the first round. So Guyton has not even been as good as Vedarian Lowe in pass protection. So, and it doesn't stop you from drafting somebody in 2025. So if Vedarian Lowe ends up being a very good stopgap and you end up drafting the future of left tackle in the 2025 draft, then really what the hell are we talking about? So I just wanted to point that out because I still see people, going bananas about, oh, they could have went out and they could have traded for Cam Robinson or they could go get this guy. The fact is Vedarian Lowe's been pretty good. So that's it. And pay attention to people like Greg and Taylor Kyles and Evan Lazar and even me, who I look at the numbers I spend time, like listen to the people that actually focus on that stuff, because I feel like it just becomes this, pitchfork and torches because the first couple of weeks were rough on the offensive line. It's like, we're just going to keep that narrative going, even though we see on the field, there's been some shift. Speaking of trading, would you buy, Greg, if you're the Patriots at the deadline?
Yeah, I mean, if you find the somebody that a younger player, it would be nice to have, some contract terms left, but that's not all that vital because the Patriots still have a ton of cap space that they could use both this year and, next year when they roll over the balance. It would have to be somebody that the team really liked coming out of college with their evaluations, and maybe they deem that they weren't in a good situation where they currently are. But yeah, I mean, I would be looking at tackles. But Cam Robinson is 30. I think that the Vikings were a little bit more aggressive, because they just lost Darisaw, so they had to get somebody. defensive tackle and, wide receiver as well. I mean, yeah, I'd be looking, but those type of deals don't really happen a whole lot in the NFL.
I think you should be looking at buying, like you said, if it fits certain criteria. If you could bring somebody in who you could sign long term, if T. Higgins is available and you love T. Higgins, even though I don't think he'll be available, if you think you can get somebody like that and get him into the facility before free agency and get him locked up, it makes sense. Those kinds of moves make sense. Maybe you can find somebody who, has talent, but is not really a fit on a certain team because maybe the coaching staff changed, the scheme changed, and those guys are kind of falling through the cracks, but they're younger and they have talent. Your number one job is to make this roster better. So if you can do that, then you do it. I would not be just throwing out top 100 picks, especially in this upcoming draft. It'd have to make some sense for me. But if I could bring a player in that could help, yes, bring a player in that can help because you're trying to develop a culture and you're trying to help your rookie quarterback. All right, before we get into the Titans, Greg, tell the fine people about our friends at Game Time.
It's NBA season, so you got to be in the arena to get the full flavor of all the sights, sounds, celebrity sightings, all that good stuff. And to do that, you need to use the Game Time app. I use it all the time. I love it. It's very fast, has all the stuff you want on there, like Game Time picks. It filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. They have the all-in pricing, which I love. You don't get hit with those fees at the end that like double the rate of the tickets. You know exactly how much it's going to cost, so you don't have to waste your time. Seat views, get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy, which I have to have. And by the way, I was just checking. You got the Warriors at the Celtics, the Tatum revenge game from the Olympics on Wednesday, November 6th. I was just checking it out. You can get in the balcony, so that's the 300 level. You can get in right now, all in, $142 each ticket. And if you use the promo code, you get $20 off one of those tickets. So if you really want to be there and you want to boo the crap out of Steve Kerr, then make sure you go over to Game Time to check it out. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time.
All right, before we get to defense, offense, let's just ask you, Greg, 30,000 feet, people who are not paying attention to the Tennessee Titans, which I would imagine is the vast majority of people listening to this podcast or watching us.
Included.
Yeah. They're what? They're 1-6. So people might look at the record and go, oh, this team is god awful. Are they as bad as their record?
Certainly not talent-wise. So I went back, I watched some of the film, and I'm not done with it, but I watched their offense and defense against the Colts, which was a game in which the Colts won 20-17. That was Joe Flacco versus Will Levis, and I think Will Levis, who didn't play last week, it was Mason Rudolph, who lost 54-14. The Buffalo Bills beat them 34-10, so they've been outscored 86-24 against two of the best teams in the league. I mean, those two teams could be in the Super Bowl the way they're going right now, and they're playing at a high level, so I don't really fault them for that. But, just watching them from, 10,000 feet, I don't know why this team's 1-6. Now, I do know almost all of it has to do with Will Levis has been a bakery with the amount of turnovers that he's surrendered. I mean, he plays like an idiot on the field. He really does. He looks, I mean, even when he has protection and there's this and that, like he just looks like nervous, like he's just going 100 billion miles an hour. And you're just like, dude, take a breath. Like, so that's a lot of it. We'll see if maybe, sitting with the injury, like maybe calmed him down a little bit. But I mean, you look at this team, Nick, and like, there's talent all over the place I know they dealt off DeAndre Hopkins, but they still have Calvin Ridley. They still have Tyler Boyd. The offensive line has two very high draft picks from the last two drafts. J.C. Latham at left tackle, Peter Skoronski, who went, top 10 in the draft before the 2023. They signed Cushenberry, the center from Denver, who's a good player. Dylan Radins, the right guard, was a second-round pick in 21. Very physical guy. Right tackle is a big issue for them. Tony Pollard is a good back. Tyjae Spears is a good back. Like, those guys can hit it hard and quickly. On defense, I mean, they signed Sebastian Joseph Day. Devondre Sweat was the big nose tackle from Texas, who I love, that I would have loved to see the Patriots get as sort of the next guy after Godchow. He was a second-round pick. He's a good run defender. Jeffrey Simmons is just awesome. Harold Landry is great. Kenneth Murray at linebacker is a good player. Their safeties, Hooker and Diggs, are good. They have L'Jarius Sneed and Roger McQuarrie at secondary. They're playing a rookie, Brownlee, who is a fifth-round pick, who has issues. But on the whole, like, you look at this team, and you're just like, this team should not be 1-6. Now, I know they've had a tough schedule, but if they start to get it together, similar to like the Patriots, I think this is going to be a tough matchup. But I do think it's going to come down to the quarterbacks, and obviously, I like the Drake Maye versus Will Levis matchup if that's what we get.
All right, let's start here. Patriots defense versus Titans offense. What are you looking for if you're DeMarcus Covington?
Hang on. I was just looking for something to go over some of my notes. I want to put the game in Will Levis's hands, as much as possible. I don't think, Ridley's pretty fast. There's a reason why the Patriots wanted to sign him, but I'm doing the same thing that I did last week. Like, I'm playing a lot more man coverage. I'm putting guys in the box. What you're going to have to worry about with this Titans team, and I do think Brian Callahan, is it Brian Callahan? No.
Yes.
It's yes.
That's their head coach. Yeah.
Yeah. So they have Brian Callahan, and his dad, Bill, is one of the greatest offensive line coaches ever. And you can see they're starting to get some footing on the offensive line with these young guys. Like, this is a typical what we've seen. Shanahan, McVay. He's more McVay type of West Coast scheme. But so what you're going to see is, especially early, to try to get Will Levis calmed down, which is good luck to that. They're going to run a bunch of bubbles and screens and stuff like that, like, just to get him a bit settled down. And they're going to run outside zone. They're going to run inside zone. Like, they're going to try to get you going, back and forth. So, I'm worried a lot about that. But I think with the state of the Patriots sort of run defense, which I don't think it was better last week, but I still don't think it's good. I think the only way they have a chance is to play more man coverage, to drop a safety down in the box, and, make sure you're on your P's and Q's. And I think if they can build on what they did last week, that's really good. I'm not going to worry about blitzing Will Levis. He'll create turnovers on his own. He'll act sped up even when you're not speeding him up. So I think that definitely plays into the hands of DeMarcus Covington and the Patriots defense.
You mentioned the offensive line of Tennessee, and I'm just shocked at the numbers, given the talent that they have and the fact that they have Bill Callahan as their coach. I mean, they are 31st in the league in pressure rate given up. So the second worst pass protection offensive line in football. And that's not just the next gen stat. They're also 30th in ESPN's pass block win rate. Their pass protection has been god awful. And you mentioned it, Greg, about the blitz. It's interesting. Given those numbers, you might think, oh, maybe teams are going after the offensive line. They're not. Tennessee has faced the 9th lowest blitz rate in the league. So teams are not blitzing them, but they're getting home. Now, some of that could be on Levis, of course, not recognizing certain things up front. So there's certainly part of that, but they've had issues. They've had issues with protecting Levis, some of that on the O-line, some of that on him. But you certainly feel like if you have 5 or 6 guys at the line like you had last week against the Jets playing man coverage and being a little more aggressive up front, that you could cause some issues. And by the way, Levis is practicing and he's throwing, so it looks like he has a good shot of playing this week. All right, offense, Greg. Patriots offense. If you're Alex Van Pelt, you're watching this Titans defense, I will say this. You're watching a defense that's pretty damn good. They are ninth in the league in DVOA defensively. Yep. People might look at the 52 points in last week's game against Detroit and put that on the defense. 5 of those drives for Detroit started inside the Tennessee, at the Tennessee or inside the Tennessee 26-yard line. So they had a bunch of short fields because of turnovers. What do you see on the defense?
Yeah, their rush defense is top 10 in the league. It's very good. I mean, you have to take care of Jeffrey Simmons on the inside. I mean, he's always been a game wrecker. He always seems to have pretty good games against the Patriots when they do get a chance to match up. Harold Landry on the edge, the BC kid, really good. We say it every week, and probably coming off the concussion, it's definitely not going to happen this week. But you think you would like to help out the run game a little bit by incorporating Drake Maye running the ball a little bit, but I don't think that's going to happen. The Patriots do still need to run the ball, and I thought that was a really good job by Alex Van Pelt last week. I mean, even though I think Stevenson at the end had like 20 carries for like 52 yards or something like that, like. A lot of those were important carries. Like, he's so physical. They're like, body blows and keeps things honest. And, I think we talked about it before. There was one run to the right where, it was a toss play to the right and it should have been -5. And Stevenson ends up picking 1 yard. And that was one of the greatest, 1 yard runs I've ever seen in my life. And so, it tires out the defense a little bit. I do worry about, the Titans turning the Patriots over a little bit. Those safeties are sort of ball hawks. I mean, I'm definitely going over after Brownlee Jr., the rookie cornerback who usually lines up on the left, but also Nick, what you just talked about in terms of last week and, the score not really telling you what happened in the game. We do need to mention that the Titans special teams are freaking horrendous. We're talking all-time bad. Aaron Schatz, with his DVOA, said that the Titans are the 4th worst special teams unit since 1979 in terms of their metrics. So I think this is the type of game, especially with Patriots teams pass, like Belichick teams pass, where they always seem to be one special teams game a year where they made a huge difference. And everyone's like, see, that's why we take 15 special teams players. It's for games like this when they could really just beat the opponent straight up. But this has all the makings that this could be a special teams sort of game for the Patriots and take the pressure off the other 2 phases of the game.
We should add that Snead is dealing with an injury. He's been deemed week to week, so I don't think he's expected to play this weekend, which obviously would be a pretty big deal for that Tennessee defense. Again, he did not practice yesterday, called week to week, which usually means it's going to be an injury that keeps him out for a little while. Speaking of injuries, before we get to our prediction, I will update you because as we record this, finally getting information from Patriots practice. Mark Daniels of Mass Live just tweeted out that Drake Maye is throwing. He did more today than they saw him do yesterday, which, of course, they didn't see him do anything yesterday. But he was out there at the start of practice, leading individual drills, according to Mike Giardi. And looks like, at least, since he was out there at the beginning and leading drills, looks like he is most likely in phase 4. Now, what does that mean? If he gets through today's practice, he will then have to, I saw Brian Hoyer talk about this on the game plan. He did a great job because obviously he played the position, had concussions, knows exactly what they have to do. Drake has to, after today, he's going to go through some balance testing, and they also, he'll do a test on the computer, and they go back to his baseline, which Brian Hoyer said probably took place in June when he came in for, minicamp. So he'll have to at least meet the neurological baseline that he had back in June, if not exceed that baseline. So phase 4, physical activity, he's going through what he's got to go through. And then he will meet with the independent neuroscientist, and they will run him through some of these other tests off the field. And if he passes that, then he's pretty much cleared. So it looks like
you know, yeah, I was just going to say, so it looks like unless there's some sort of setback, Drake Maye will be starting on Sunday.
Yeah, looks like he's taking the next step, which is great news. All right. Don't forget to check out Greg and Giardi at BSJ, $50 for the year. Great coverage there. We've told you about Prize Picks, that CLNS code to get $50 instantly when you play 5. We also just told you about Game Time. Again, that code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. All right, this week's pick, let's get to it. I'm 4-4 against the spread. Greg is 3-4-1 against the spread.
Yep.
Greg is 5-3 straight up. I am 4-4 straight up. Tennessee Titans giving 3.5 points on Sunday. The over-under is 38.5. Greg, who you got?
Provided Drake Maye plays, this is sort of like the next step challenge for him. I do think that I do think that the Titans are going to present issues for the Patriots. But again, I think this is going to be a really good game. I think that I'd like Drake Maye over Will Levis in the quarterback matchup. I mean, I trust Drake Maye a lot more than Will Levis. Now, part of me wants to say this could be like an old AFC East turnover touchdown battle between these two quarterbacks. I could see them airing it out and, making plays for both teams. It could be a fun sort of crazy game like that. But I like Maye over Levis, and I think he's going to do a better job. I think he's going to outplay him. So I'm going to go Patriots 23, Titans 17.
Titans defense will play games up front. They love playing games up front, the old spin the dial kind of stuff. So it will be a challenging game for either quarterback that plays for the Patriots. But I look at Tennessee and the little things, right? Because neither of these teams are great. They haven't been able to put it together consistently. So I look at things like special teams. I look at things like turnovers. And I'm going to go with the Patriots. I think it's going to be lower scoring than Greg does. I would take the under. I would take the 3.5 points. So I like the Patriots winning this game. I'll say, 17-13, somewhere in that range. I don't know if either offense is going to be explosive or move the football very well. So, but I would take the Patriots. Of course, turnovers can change everything, but that's how I feel about it. He's Greg. I'm Nick. Enjoy the weekend of football, everybody. Happy Halloween if you're listening on Thursday. If this gets out Thursday. And we'll be back early next week to recap Titans-Patriots.